Hey guys, welcome back. We're here in this parenting and teaching video series to talk about something that's really vital. When we first heard about this, we heard about this through two different methods. I want to honor the sources we got this from. Both Danny Silk and also Love and Logic teach very similar themes, and we'll recommend these resources if you want to do a deeper dive into this. But this is an idea now of what Danny Silk calls connection with kids, whether it's with kids that you are parenting and kids that you're teaching. And here's the thing: connection is vital. It's a foundational thing to be able to influence our kids and to be able to speak into their lives. Again, like the last video said, we're looking not just at changing behavior, but changing hearts. And so here's what connection is. So we believe so strongly in connection that it even is more important than just disciplining. I want to be clear, when we talk about parenting styles, we talk about this idea of how you can be permissive, you can be warm and inviting, but not, and permissive, allow everything. So we're not talking about that idea. We are talking about the fact that kids need boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. They need parented, they need taught the proper way to go. They do need to have, in a classroom setting, you need to have kids that are in control of themselves and managing themselves well, so we can all learn together. We're not disruptive. But here's the thing: connection is the means by which we have the power to influence and see behavior change in our kids and see heart change too. I believe both are important. Like, obviously we want to have behavior change in our kids. We want not just behavior change, but heart change. Danny Silk, again, highly recommend his teaching. He refers to connection as the strength of your pull on a child, all right? And he likens the idea of if all the connection strength I have is that of a tissue, I'm not going to be able to pull very hard on that kid to change their heart or change their behavior. But if I were to strengthen that, go to a string or, to a rope, now I've got really a strong ability. And this is something definitely as parents we have to work on for a lifetime with our kids, from the word born until they are out of the house. As teachers, we have more challenge. Like I said, previous videos, we have a timeshare parenting. We are parenting kids in a classroom. It is a form of parenting, a form of shepherding, and we have much smaller windows to do it. So some of these things, as a teacher, you definitely have to try outside of just the class period to cultivate this and grow this connection. So here's the thing: is that connection is caring about a child more than just their behavior, all right? And the idea is this: that you are seeing a child as a person, and let me explain that a little bit. The idea is that you're getting to know the child, help them to feel known, all right? Fully known and fully loved is an idea that's foundational. And just in a good parenting and good teaching is that you are knowing kids you parent, knowing kids that you teach. And how do you do that? Well, you ask questions, you notice things. So let me just use the example of like teaching, if you will, is that you have a child that walks into class, you haven't seen them all week, on a Sunday morning, and they're wearing a Minecraft shirt. Cultivating connection starts like this: hey, I see you're wearing a Minecraft shirt. That's pretty cool. Tell me more about it. When do you play? What do you do in Minecraft? Or you're saying something like cultivating connection. You could say, hey, what'd you do on Saturday? What did you do last week? What's your favorite food to eat? What kind of pizza toppings do you like? Anything like that. This sounds silly, but here's what we're looking at. We're looking at developing that stronger pull. So connection is something that has to happen way before there's a crisis, way before there's behavior to change, all right? And I'll say this, that if you're coming into a situation as a teacher, for example, or even as a parent, where you're recognizing, hey, I need a shift in my thinking, I need to cultivate connection where there wasn't any before, it would actually look like this: that you're actually setting aside temporarily behavior issues, okay, to work on the connection side of things, so that in the long term you have that pull to pull in behavior. So yeah, you are not dismissing behavior, you're not excusing behavior.
Right.
You're just saying, I'm first going to work on connections so that I have the ability to speak into their lives.
Yeah.
And that's what we call connection foundational. We call it like the most basic thing you've got to work on first. If you don't have connection, you're not going to change behavior. You're not, as a parent or as a teacher.
Right.
And so if you have to repent, you have to go back to cultivating connection. Do that first so that you can work on those behavior, those heart things. Yeah. Do you have things to add to that?
Yeah. Some other examples of things when I'm as a teacher, Sunday school teacher.
Yeah.
Even when I wasn't teaching, if I saw them in the hallway, a kid that maybe I thought I was not as connected with, I would specifically seek them out, give them a high five, say how they're doing, or, just try to engage them so that I could have more little touches like that, so that they all build on each other. And then when you have those more harder moments in the classroom, I've been able to actually lean on some of that and say, there was one child that I teach preschool. He was acting out, and I took him aside and I said, "Hey, you're my buddy, aren't you my buddy?" And we were able to kind of reconnect together, and talked about that a little bit, and then we're able to talk about his behavior, and he was able to shift and change. But if I didn't have those other moments before that, that would have meant nothing, and I wouldn't have been able to influence him as much.
Yeah.
One of the things Danny Silk says, and this is related to both parenting and teaching, is that you can't control anyone else. You can only control you. So as a parent, as a teacher, you can only control you and yourself. You cannot control the child that you're teaching or your kids.
Yeah.
And he even jokes and says, even on a good day, you can't control, sometimes we can't even control ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah.
But we don't want to be trying to control other kids or our children. And that's why this connection piece is so critical, because, as Todd said, if your connection is weak, your influence is weak. So we want to influence our kids.
Yeah.
We want to show them, we want to teach them, we want to guide them, direct them, put parameters up, boundaries. At the end of the day, they still have a choice to make, whether they're going to follow them or not. And of course, there may be consequences if they don't, but if you want that child to be obedient and to act in a way that you would expect them to, if your influence is there, it's stronger. If you got a chain instead of a tissue paper, correct connection, then they're more likely to come along and make that good choice, because they themselves also know that connection is there and they don't want to lose it. And so we have to say, personally, from personal testimony with our own boys, one of them in particular, I won't get into the details, but he was going through a tough time and he was making some pretty yucky decisions. And we were able to really go after a connection with him, because we felt like it was starting to get a little thinner. And that was the first thing that we went after with him. Of course, there were consequences to his behavior and actions, but while he was dealing with those consequences, we sought after keeping connected with him as the most important thing. And having his heart turn towards us and not away from us. And it was scary for a little bit, because I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but he ended up turning, and his heart turned towards us. We were able to get his connection back and strengthened, and it's stronger than it's ever been. And I trust him and he trusts us, and I believe that it's building a good foundation for his future. But that's just an example of where that connection, I just can't stress it enough. It is so important. And even as Todd said earlier, over the discipline, it's easy to just jump right in and be upset and frustrated with them and want to yell and scream and want to force them to do something.
Mm.
But sometimes there are times where you have to ask yourself, we'll talk about the discipline and
Yeah.
the boundaries later.
Yeah.
Let's work on this connection here,
Yeah.
and let's make that a priority, because that's more important. And
Yeah.
then sure, consequences will come, but that's really key.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we've practiced this in our household, like Hannah mentioned, and I was honestly skeptical of this working in a classroom setting. I don't currently teach elementary, but I did recently, and in the recent past, and I was talking with Hannah about a child, and if you're a teacher, you know, you've got a list of kids, one or two, or maybe more, are the trouble kids, the problem children. You know this, and we can laugh about it because it's a real thing. Some kids are just easier to connect with by default. Some kids are warmer, just naturally speaking. Other kids, the reality is, kids have come from rough situations. We don't know even the full extent of what they've been dealing with. But I had one such a problem child in my classroom, and I was even with him, and I was talking with Hannah about it, and she said this is like Captain Obvious, but how's your connection? Like, oh wow, okay, I have to work on that. So I did. I worked on it for a couple weeks actually, and while I was still working on the behavior change, right, I was still working on the disruptive classroom things, it wasn't laying those aside. I made a special effort to work on just the connection. So for this child, I was observing hardcore, just anything about them that I could latch onto and connect with. The shirt they were wearing, how they did their hair that day,
Things they were
interested in. I was friendly with them in the hallway. I was talking with them. This sounds crazy simple, and it is that simple. And I noticed after a little while, it was even a span of a couple weeks of just that small, quick investment in the hallway and in the classroom, that I had a stronger connection. I had that rope to pull on, and we saw behavior change as a result of it. When I went a couple weeks later and said, hey, I need you to do this, yeah, like that, it was a response that I didn't have before. And so, yeah, does it seem like magic? Sometimes it does, but no, it's really important just to look at connection first and foremost. Cultivate that in your own heart. Lay aside the behavior for a short time period in order to focus on the connection.
Yeah.
And you'll be amazed at how this happens. Of course, I would say also within that, talk to Jesus and ask him how you can connect with a child. Give them tools. This is definitely paramount, that we need the compassion of Jesus in order to connect with the children we minister to or to we parent. But he's faithful. He loves this kind of stuff too. I believe that Jesus is all about connection.
Yeah.
And understanding. And I'll say this to close this video, is that one of the keys too is understanding and having empathy, and that looks like this phrase that, hey, it looks like you're really struggling right now. You're using that phrase even to engage with a child who's being disruptive. And that is an understanding statement. It's not excusing it. It's not permitting it. It's just understanding. All right. And so what if we can do that kind of thing with our kids? It says in Hebrews that we have a great high priest who understands everything we've gone through. What if we can be that high priest like person for the children we parent and children we teach? What an awesome opportunity. It's so worth it. And it works. Powerful. So, yeah, anything to add to that?
No, I think this goes back to the first video where we talked about if you have a disconnection with your kid or child, this is probably more along the lines for your own children. And if it's related to perhaps maybe a mess that you need to clean up, then that's a great place to start, is to go to your child and to acknowledge your mess and apologize to them, humble yourself.
Yeah.
I have done that numerous times where I will go and I'll own my part. They obviously probably had a part too. Usually there's two involved, but I just own my part. And when I've done that in the past, and don't even bring their part into it at that point, just say, this is what I did. I was wrong. I acted inappropriately. I was not kind. I was not peaceful. insert whatever fruit of the spirit you may have not been doing, that it really usually brings the child back, and it allows you to be regaining that connection. And now when it happens, if I'm repentant first, my kids then become repentant because they acknowledge, hey, I was wrong too. And
that's really good.
It's gotten they get quicker at it.
Yeah.
The more I demonstrate that to them first. So
awesome.
Good stuff.
Connection is really powerful. It's an incredible tool. It's amazing how it works, and it's because Jesus desires to connect with us, so we're just following his footsteps of leading by connection first. So excited to see you guys in this journey. Can't wait to hear what God does through your parenting and teaching as you shift to this idea. Thanks for watching.